There are moments on Earth when nature stops looking familiar. A mountain rises so abruptly that it seems to ignore gravity. A bridge appears to float between cliffs that should never have been connected. A monastery rests on a pillar of stone where even birds hesitate to land. A pathway clings to a vertical mountain as though someone had drawn it across the sky. These places challenge something deeper than our understanding of engineering. They challenge our understanding of the planet itself, because before humanity imagined impossible structures, the Earth imagined impossible landscapes. Millions of years before the first civilization, continents drifted silently across the surface of the planet. Entire oceans disappeared. New mountains rose where ancient seas had once existed. Volcanoes buried landscapes beneath rivers of molten rock. Glaciers carved valleys deeper than skyscrapers are tall. Wind sculpted deserts into natural monuments. Rivers patiently sliced through solid stone until enormous canyons appeared where no canyon had existed before. Nature never hurried, it simply kept creating. 1 century became another, 1 million years became 10. Every storm, every earthquake, every wave, every winter added another brushstroke to a masterpiece still changing today. Then humanity arrived. Instead of avoiding these extraordinary places, people accepted their challenge. Some climbed impossible cliffs, others crossed terrifying chasms. The remarkable structures you're about to discover are often celebrated as triumphs of engineering, but they all share one truth. Without extraordinary geography, they could never have existed. Our journey begins in China, where one of the world's most breathtaking walkways follows a mountain that has been sculpting itself for hundreds of millions of years. Huashan Plank Walk. China Mount Huashan doesn't slowly appear on the horizon, it erupts from it. 5 granite peaks rise sharply above the plains of Shanxi province, their cliffs so steep they often disappear into passing clouds. At sunrise, the valleys below fill with mist until only the highest summits remain visible, creating the illusion that entire mountains are floating above the earth. Long before people climbed these heights, tectonic forces lifted ancient granite from deep beneath the surface. Rain, wind, freezing winters, and gravity then spent millions of years carving every ridge, every crack, and every vertical wall visible today. The mountain became beautiful because nature refused to stop shaping it. When early travelers finally reached Huashan, they understood something important. The mountain could never be conquered. It could only be respected. Instead of forcing roads through the granite, builders followed natural ledges already created by erosion. Narrow wooden planks were secured directly into the cliff, tracing a route that seems almost invisible against the immense rock face. The Huashan Plank Walk hangs hundreds of meters above the valleys below, yet standing upon it rarely feels like standing on a structure. It feels as though you're walking across the mountain's own imagination. Clouds drift beneath your feet. Granite walls rise beside your shoulders. Entire mountain ranges unfold beyond the horizon. The walkway doesn't steal the scene. It simply allows people to experience one of Earth's greatest geological masterpieces from within. Yet if Huashan teaches us that mountains can support impossible paths, our next destination proves that nature can build towers so extraordinary that humanity chooses to build upon the sky itself. Meteora Monasteries, Greece. From the fertile plains of central Greece, enormous stone pillars suddenly rise toward the clouds, standing alone like forgotten monuments from another world. Millions of years ago, this landscape rested beneath an ancient sea. Sediments slowly hardened into massive layers of rock before tectonic forces lifted them high above the water. Wind, rain, and countless freezing winters patiently removed everything except the strongest stone, leaving behind towering pillars unlike anything else in Europe. Their name, Meteora, means suspended in the air. No description could be more accurate. Early monks believed these summits offered the perfect place for silence. Rather than changing the landscape, they adapted to it, building monasteries that appear almost inseparable from the rock itself. From below, the buildings seem impossible. From above, the valley stretches endlessly beneath them, with rivers, forests, and villages appearing impossibly small. Here, the greatest achievement isn't the architecture. It's the harmony between human determination and millions of years of geological evolution. And beyond these stone towers, another mountain waits. One so steep that a monastery appears glued directly onto its cliff. A place where clouds arrive before sunrise and leave only after the mountains have disappeared again. The journey continues to Bhutan. Tiger's Nest Monastery, Bhutan, far beyond the plains of Greece, where Asia begins folding itself into the highest mountains on Earth. Another landscape challenges the limits of human imagination. The Himalayas are unlike any other mountain system on the planet. They are not ancient mountains slowly fading into history. They are still growing. Every year, the Indian tectonic plate continues pushing beneath Eurasia, lifting entire ranges by tiny amounts almost impossible to notice within a human lifetime. Yet over millions of years, those tiny movements have raised peaks that now touch the edge of the atmosphere. Among these mountains lies the Paro Valley. Dense pine forests blanket its lower slopes, while waterfalls tumble through narrow ravines hidden beneath morning mist. As sunlight slowly reaches the valley, enormous granite cliffs emerge from the clouds, their faces almost perfectly vertical. One of those cliffs rises more than 900 meters above the forest. At first, it appears completely untouched. Then something extraordinary catches your eye. A monastery, not resting upon the summit, not hidden within the forest, but attached directly to the cliff itself. The Tiger's Nest Monastery, known locally as Paro Taktsan, seems almost impossible to separate from the mountain that supports it. White walls follow the contours of solid granite. Golden roofs catch the morning light while clouds drift silently beneath them. From a distance, it almost appears to float. According to Bhutanese tradition, this sacred place became important during the 8th century, when Guru Padmasambhava is believed to have meditated inside a cave within the cliff. Whether viewed through history, faith, or legend, the location itself is what leaves the deepest impression. Nature chose the mountain long before people did. Reaching the monastery still demands patience. The trail winds steadily upward through fragrant pine forests, where colorful prayer flags flutter between ancient trees. As elevation increases, cool mountain air replaces the warmth of the valley below. Every turn reveals another breathtaking perspective. Waterfalls crash into deep gorges. Snow-covered peaks appear beyond distant ridges. Cloud shadows slowly travel across entire mountainsides. The monastery grows larger with every step, yet somehow continues looking just as unreachable. Only when standing beside its walls does its true achievement become clear. The builders never tried to dominate the mountain. They allowed the cliff to dictate every decision. Architecture became an extension of geology. Stone became foundation. Mountain became sanctuary. And perhaps that is why Tiger's Nest feels less like a building and more like a natural part of the Himalayas themselves. Yet mountains are not the only landscapes capable of inspiring impossible construction. Sometimes all it takes is a river. Not a violent river, not an enormous river, just one that refused to stop carving. El Caminito del Rey, Spain, southern Spain, is filled with landscapes shaped by water's extraordinary patience. For millions of years, the Guadalhorce River quietly cut through layers of limestone, creating one of Europe's most dramatic gorges. Today, the Desfiladero de los Gaitanes rises more than 300 meters above the river below. Its walls are so narrow in places that sunlight reaches the water for only a few hours each day. Standing at the edge of the gorge, the cliffs seem almost impossible. Smooth limestone walls rise almost perfectly vertical, their pale surfaces revealing countless layers deposited beneath warm tropical seas more than 150 million years ago. The sea vanished, the mountains rose, the river remained. Century after century, it deepened the canyon until enormous cliffs stood where rolling hills had once existed. Most people would look at such a landscape and simply walk away. Engineers did the opposite. In the early 20th century, workers needed a way to move safely between hydroelectric facilities built along the gorge. Instead of forcing the canyon to change, they followed its natural walls. The result became El Caminito del Rey, the King's Little Pathway. The narrow walkway clings directly to the limestone cliffs, suspended high above the river with nothing but open space beneath it. Walking across it today feels strangely peaceful. The wind echoes gently through the gorge. Golden eagles circle overhead. The river below continues the same geological work it began millions of years ago, slowly reshaping the canyon one grain of stone at a time. The pathway exists only because the canyon exists. Without millions of years of erosion, there would have been nothing impossible to cross. And somewhere beyond Spain's limestone mountains, another river carved an even deeper wound into the earth. This time, it divided an entire city, and humanity responded by building one of the world's most spectacular bridges. Puente Nuevo, Ronda, Spain. Not every landscape announces its power with towering mountains or endless deserts. Sometimes, nature hides its greatest surprises beneath an ordinary horizon. Southern Spain's Andalusian countryside rolls gently across the landscape, covered with olive groves, vineyards, and broad limestone plateaus that seem peaceful enough to cross without a second thought. Then the earth suddenly disappears. Without warning, the land opens into an enormous chasm. The El Tajo Gorge slices directly through the heart of Ronda, separating one side of the city from the other with cliffs that plunge more than 100 meters toward the Guadalquivir River below. Standing at the edge feels almost unreal. The streets end abruptly. Stone walls fall straight into darkness. The river appears almost impossibly small as it continues flowing across rock that has resisted its power for millions of years. Yet the river never needed strength, only time. Long before the first settlement appeared here, rainfall collected across the surrounding limestone plateau before flowing toward the Mediterranean Sea. Every flood carried tiny grains of sand and fragments of stone that quietly polished the canyon floor. Each passing century deepened the gorge. Each winter widened invisible fractures. Slowly, patiently, water divided an entire mountain. Then people arrived. Instead of abandoning the landscape, they chose to connect it. Completed in 1793, the Puente Nuevo, or New Bridge, rises directly from the canyon walls, its massive stone arch appearing almost as though it grew naturally from the limestone itself. Unlike many bridges that dominate the scenery, Puente Nuevo seems to belong here. Its warm sandstone reflects the colors of the surrounding cliffs. Its foundations disappear into the canyon, making it difficult to tell where nature ends and architecture begins. At sunrise, golden light reaches the upper cliffs while the river remains hidden in cool shadow. By afternoon, swallows race effortlessly beneath the enormous arch, their flight revealing the astonishing scale of the gorge. The bridge does more than connect two sides of a city. It connects human history with geological time. Without the river, there would be no gorge. Without the gorge, there would be no bridge. Nature created the impossible. Humanity simply found a way across it. But rivers are not the only artists capable of transforming the earth. Far beyond Spain, powerful tides have been sculpting another extraordinary landscape where the sea itself decides when people may enter and when they must leave. Mont Saint-Michel-Abbé. France, off the coast of Normandy, lies an island that seems to change its identity every single day. Sometimes it stands proudly above the sea like a lonely mountain. Hours later, the ocean surrounds it completely. Then, almost unbelievably, the sea retreats once again, revealing vast sand flats stretching toward the mainland. This endless transformation is controlled by one of the greatest tidal ranges in Europe. The gravitational pull of the moon and the shape of the surrounding coastline combine to create tides capable of advancing astonishing distances in only a few hours. For centuries, travelers misjudged the speed of the incoming water. Many never escaped. Long before the abbey crowned its summit, Mont Saint-Michel existed as a solitary granite outcrop resisting the relentless attack of wind, waves, and tides. Unlike the softer sediments surrounding it, the granite refused to disappear. Everything else slowly eroded away. The island remained. As centuries passed, people saw more than an isolated rock. They saw sanctuary. Builders allowed the island itself to determine every stage of construction. Walls followed the natural slopes. Foundations rested directly upon ancient granite. Every new level climbed higher toward the summit until the abbey appeared to rise naturally from the island beneath it. Approaching Mont Saint-Michel is unlike approaching any ordinary building. The closer you come, the more the distinction between architecture and geology begins to disappear. Stone towers seem to emerge directly from the granite. The island becomes the foundation becomes the monastery, and the monastery becomes part of the landscape. Twice every day, the surrounding world changes completely. Water races across the tidal flats with astonishing speed, transforming dry land into open sea. Hours later, the process quietly reverses. Few places remind us more clearly that Earth's landscapes are never truly still. Even today, the sea continues reshaping the coastline exactly as it has for thousands of years. The abbey simply witnesses the process. Yet somewhere in the mountains of western China, another masterpiece of human ingenuity has survived, not by resisting nature, but by working perfectly with it. For more than 2,000 years, rivers have obeyed an ancient design that still protects millions of people today. Dujiangyan Irrigation System, China. For thousands of years, rivers have been both creators and destroyers. They nourish forests, carve valleys, transport fertile soil across continents, and give life to civilizations. Yet the same rivers can become devastating without warning, sweeping away homes, fields, and entire communities in a matter of hours. Few rivers demonstrated that contradiction more dramatically than the Min River in China's Sichuan Basin. Born high on the eastern edge of the Tibetan Plateau, the river begins its journey among snow-covered mountains where glaciers and seasonal rainfall constantly replenish its waters. Every spring, melting snow accelerates the current. During the summer monsoon, powerful storms transform the river into a roaring force capable of carrying enormous boulders downstream. For centuries, the fertile Chengdu Plain depended on this river. It also feared it. Ancient floods repeatedly buried farmland beneath gravel and silt, while prolonged dry seasons left the same fields desperately short of water. Nature had created abundance, but without balance. More than 2,000 years ago, Governor Li Bing faced a challenge that countless civilizations before him had failed to solve. He refused to imprison the river behind a massive dam. Instead, he spent years studying it. He observed how water accelerated around bends, how sediments settled where the current slowed, how the river naturally searched for the easiest path across the landscape. Rather than fighting nature, he decided to cooperate with it. The result became the Dujiangyan Irrigation System, one of the greatest engineering achievements in human history. Standing above the river today, the design appears almost deceptively simple. A fish-shaped levee gently divides the Min River into two channels. One carries excess floodwater safely downstream. The other delivers carefully controlled water toward the Chengdu Plain. Nearby, a narrow opening carved through Mount Yulei allows part of the river to continue flowing naturally while automatically reducing destructive floods. No giant concrete walls interrupt the landscape. No enormous reservoir drowns the valley. The river continues moving exactly as rivers have always done. Only now, it does so with remarkable harmony. The surrounding scenery is as impressive as the engineering itself. Steep emerald mountains surround the valley, their slopes covered by dense bamboo forests and ancient cypress trees. Mist often hangs above the river during early mornings, softening the outlines of suspension bridges that quietly connect opposite banks. In autumn, golden leaves drift gently across the current. In winter, distant peaks where fresh snow, while the river continues flowing with the same quiet determination it has shown for thousands of years. Here, the structure almost disappears. Visitors rarely remember the stone channels. They remember the landscape, the mountains, the forests, the sound of flowing water, and perhaps that is the greatest compliment any structure can receive. It succeeds so completely that nature remains the true masterpiece. But water is not the only obstacle humanity has learned to understand. Far above sea level, where oxygen grows thin and glaciers still shape the highest mountains in Europe, another extraordinary structure rises toward the sky. This time, the destination is not a river. It is the roof of the Alps. Aiguille du Midi Cable Car. The French Alps possess a scale that photographs rarely capture. From distant valleys, their snow-covered peaks appear peaceful and motionless. Only after standing among them does their true immensity become clear. Granite walls rise almost vertically from green alpine meadows. Ancient glaciers wind silently through broad valleys, carrying fractured rock toward lower elevations exactly as they have done since the last ice age. Above them all stands Aiguille du Midi, a narrow granite summit reaching nearly 3,842 meters above sea level. The mountain belongs to the Mont Blanc Massif, a landscape born when the African plate slowly collided with Europe, compressing and lifting enormous blocks of crust toward the sky. Those tectonic forces are still active today. The Alps continue rising. At the same time, wind, snow, ice, and gravity continue wearing them away. Creation and destruction exist here together. During winter, avalanches reshape entire slopes within minutes. During summer, glaciers melt, exposing fresh rock that has remained hidden beneath ice for centuries. The mountain never truly stands still. Reaching such heights once required days of dangerous climbing. Today, the Aiguille du Midi cable car glides almost effortlessly above forests, cliffs, glaciers, and crevasses, connecting the Chamonix Valley with one of Europe's most spectacular viewpoints. The engineering is extraordinary, yet once again, it quickly fades into the background. Passengers find themselves staring not at the cables, but at the mountains. Jagged granite spires pierce brilliant blue skies. Glaciers sparkle beneath the afternoon sun. Tiny climbers appear like moving dots against immense walls of ice and stone. The higher the journey continues, the quieter the world becomes. At nearly 4,000 meters above sea level, even the wind seems different. Standing on the viewing platform, surrounded by peaks stretching toward every horizon, it becomes impossible to separate human achievement from the landscape that inspired it. The cable car never conquered the mountain. It simply found the gentlest path through one of Earth's greatest geological masterpieces. And while mountains continue rising toward the sky, far to the north, the ocean has been creating impossible roads of its own. The next destination leads to Norway, where one bridge appears to vanish directly into the sea. Storsundet Bridge, Norway. There are places where the ocean never truly rests. Even on calm days, the North Atlantic breathes with quiet determination. Waves roll endlessly toward the rugged Norwegian coastline, polishing granite islands that have resisted storms for thousands of years. During winter, powerful winds sweep across the sea, while thick fog drifts silently between scattered islets before disappearing beneath the first light of dawn. This coastline was never shaped by gentle weather. It was sculpted by ice. During the last ice age, enormous glaciers covered much of Scandinavia beneath ice sheets more than 2 kilometers thick. As those frozen rivers slowly advanced, they crushed mountains, carved deep valleys, and polished solid granite with unimaginable force. When the climate gradually warmed, the glaciers retreated. The sea rushed in. What remained became one of Earth's most spectacular coastlines. Thousands of rocky islands scattered themselves across the Atlantic like fragments of an ancient mountain range. Some are no larger than a single house. Others support forests twisted by relentless ocean wind. The bridge never dominates the scenery. Instead, it becomes another graceful line within a landscape already filled with movement. Here, The real architect remains the ocean. Every wave continues shaping the coastline. Every storm redraws the boundary between sea and land. The bridge simply reminds us that sometimes the most remarkable engineering begins by listening to nature rather than resisting it. But even Norway's restless coast cannot prepare us for what waits farther south. High above a narrow valley, carved into a cliff that has watched civilizations rise and fall, stands another remarkable sanctuary. A place where architecture seems almost suspended between earth and sky. Sumela Monastery, Turkey. Along the northern edge of Turkey, where the Pontic Mountains meet the Black Sea, forests blanket steep slopes in endless shades of emerald. Moist air drifting inland from the sea nourishes ancient spruce, beech, and fir trees, creating one of the richest mountain ecosystems in the region. Hidden beneath this dense canopy flows the Altindare Valley. Waterfalls tumble through rocky ravines. Mist gathers between towering cliffs before sunrise. Birdsong echoes across the mountains long before the first rays of light reach the valley floor. Then, almost without warning, your eyes discover something extraordinary. Halfway up a sheer cliff, a monastery appears to emerge directly from the rock. The Sumela Monastery seems almost impossible. Its stone walls blend so perfectly with the surrounding limestone that, from a distance, it feels less like a building than a natural extension of the mountain itself. The cliff supporting it has existed for tens of millions of years. Powerful tectonic forces raised these mountains as continents slowly collided, while rivers and seasonal rainfall patiently carved deep valleys through the uplifted terrain. Every winter, freezing temperatures widened tiny fractures within the rock. Every spring, melting snow carried loose fragments into the valley below. The mountain continued changing, slowly, relentlessly. When early monks arrived here, they did not attempt to reshape the landscape. Instead, they embraced its natural shelter. The cliff offered protection. Fresh mountain water flowed nearby. Dense forests provided isolation and silence. Everything the landscape offered became part of the monastery's story. Reaching Sumela even today is part of the experience. A winding mountain trail climbs steadily beneath towering trees before emerging onto narrow ledges overlooking the valley. Each step reveals broader views across forests stretching toward distant ridgelines. Clouds drift effortlessly between the peaks, sometimes hiding the monastery completely before revealing it again moments later. Standing on its terraces, visitors quickly realize that the greatest spectacle is not the building itself. It is the world surrounding it. Endless green mountains roll toward the horizon. Waterfalls disappear into ancient forests. Morning light slowly transforms the valley below, while cool mountain air carries the scent of pine and wet stone. Here, architecture becomes almost invisible. Nature speaks first. The monastery simply listens, and perhaps that is the secret shared by every impossible place we've explored. None of these remarkable structures defeated nature. None conquered mountains, rivers, oceans, or cliffs. Instead, they accepted a simple truth. The greatest engineer on Earth has always been the planet itself. Humanity's finest achievements began not by changing extraordinary landscapes, but by understanding them. Château de Perched. France high above southern France, a narrow limestone ridge rises like the spine of an ancient dragon. Millions of years ago, this region lay beneath a warm tropical sea. As continents collided, those seabeds folded upward into rugged mountains, while wind and rain sculpted the sharp cliffs that dominate the landscape today. Perched on the highest ridge is Château de Perched. Rather than leveling the mountain, its builders followed every twist and curve of the rock. Walls seemed to grow directly from the limestone, making the fortress almost invisible from a distance. Standing here, the view stretches across forests, vineyards, and distant peaks. The fortress is remarkable, but the mountain beneath it is the true masterpiece. Far beyond France, another impossible structure clings to cliffs that rise almost straight from the sea. Monasteries of Madara, Bulgaria. Eastern Bulgaria hides a landscape where towering cliffs suddenly emerge from gentle rolling plains. These limestone walls were slowly carved by rivers and weather over millions of years, creating natural terraces high above the surrounding countryside. Within these cliffs, people carved places of worship directly into the rock. Instead of transporting stone, they transformed the mountain itself. From the narrow ledges, endless green valleys spread toward the horizon while birds circle effortlessly below. Here, architecture almost disappears. Only the cliff remains. Yet even these limestone walls seem ordinary compared to the volcanic island waiting in the middle of the Aegean Sea. Ronda's hanging houses. Spain. Across southern Spain, rivers have spent millions of years cutting through thick limestone plateaus, leaving behind deep gorges that seem to split the earth in two. One of the most spectacular is El Tajo Gorge in Ronda. While the famous bridge connects the cliffs, another sight is even more astonishing. Ancient stone houses stand directly on the canyon's edge, their foundations ending only meters from a vertical drop of more than 100 meters. From below, they appear to float above the abyss. The buildings survive because the limestone beneath them has remained remarkably stable for thousands of years. Nature created the cliff. Humanity simply learned to live beside it. But Spain's dramatic canyons are only the beginning. Across the Mediterranean lies an island where entire villages seem to pour down the walls of an ancient volcano. Santorini, cliff villages. Greece. Long before whitewashed homes covered its cliffs, Santorini was one of the largest volcanoes in the Mediterranean. Then, around 3,600 years ago, a catastrophic eruption collapsed the volcano's center, leaving behind a vast caldera surrounded by towering cliffs. Today, villages such as Oya and Fira cling to those volcanic walls. Their bright white buildings follow every curve of the dark volcanic rock, creating one of the world's most recognizable landscapes. At sunset, the cliffs glow gold while the deep blue Aegean Sea fills the enormous crater below. The villages are breathtaking, but the volcano that shaped them remains the true wonder. Far to the east, another civilization built directly into mountains that had been waiting millions of years for human footsteps. Petra. Jordan. Hidden among the deserts of southern Jordan, towering sandstone mountains suddenly open into narrow canyons. For millions of years, wind and flash floods carved these colorful cliffs into smooth walls streaked with red, orange, and gold. Within those mountains, the Nabateans created Petra. Instead of bringing stone to the city, they carved the city from the mountain itself. Temples, tombs, and grand facades emerged directly from the sandstone, making architecture and geology almost impossible to separate. Every sunrise changes the color of the cliffs. Every sunset paints them differently again. Petra reminds us that sometimes the greatest building material is the landscape itself. Yet even carved mountains cannot compare to what waits high above the clouds in Peru, where an entire city rests upon a razor-sharp ridge. As our journey comes to an end, one thought quietly remains. The world is far stranger, far older, and far more beautiful than we often imagine. Every mountain you've seen, every cliff, every canyon, every impossible structure is only a single page in a story the Earth has been writing for billions of years, and we've only just begun reading it. Beyond the horizon, countless forgotten landscapes are still waiting. Hidden islands, cities carved into stone, roads suspended above the clouds, and places so extraordinary that they seem to belong to another planet. If exploring the world's greatest geographical wonders inspires you as much as it inspires us, then become part of this journey. Subscribe to Travora Wonders, and together we'll continue discovering the places that prove reality is far more extraordinary than imagination. Until our next adventure, keep looking beyond the map, because the next impossible place may be closer than you think.